Well, recently I just got out of the hospital with a very angry gallstone. And I was shocked as I entered my hospital room, hooked up to IVs and beepers and everything else. My nurse had a southern drawl. Immediately, I recognized she was from Kentucky, where they make real Christian cornbread. So we began to chat, and she began to do my monitor and blood pressure and yada, yada. And I found out that she was raised by very strict religious Christian parents who practice heavy guilt and shaming for misbehavior. As a result of it, she never did see Jesus, and she had deconstructed and become agnostic. Mm. In a moment, she didn't know it, but I began to pray for her and just began to banter back and forth with her. And then at the right moment, I felt the Lord tell me to tell her a story. And so I said to her, when you have a moment, I'd like to tell you a story. So she made her rounds. She came back and she said, okay, I'm ready. As she stood somewhat sheepishly away from my bed, she began to listen to this story. I said, this story is actually a nurse story. And you're a nurse, of which God gave you a gift to do this. This story happened in the hospital right across town there at Toledo Hospital. I said, I had a young, disappointed girl who was going through a divorce in my Bible study, and she was a nurse. And that particular night, she told me this story, wondering if God still loved her going through a broken divorce and a heartbreak, that she had a patient on the floor that night in ICU. And he was elderly and in ICU. When she came in, he told her, Jesus came into my room tonight, and he told me he's coming to get me at 10 o'clock in the morning. And of course, patients say anything in ICU. Immediately, I wish I'd had this on film, but against protocol, the Holy Spirit touched her, and she walked across the room and she sat down on my couch in my room. And she crossed her legs like a little girl at a campfire, and she leaned forward. And I said, she went to bed that night after her shift, and intrigued by the old man's statement, she called the hospital and she said, hey, I'd like to check on my patient last night, his status. What is his status this morning? And they told her, she said, oh, he passed away this morning. She said, what time? They said 10 a.m. And she gasped and she said, thank you. And she realized in that moment that God had a special assignment because she was a nurse that no one had ever had. As I told her that story, the nurse in my room, who I think also had been to a divorce, rubbed her arms and had goosebumps all over her body, teary-eyed, moistened. She said, you have no idea how I needed this. And I said, God knew how much I needed you. Because if you were in church, you couldn't take care of me. She goes, there's something about you that just makes someone feel special. I said, his name is Jesus.